The farmer walked into Patterson John Deere in Mason City, Iowa, wearing muddy overalls and boots that had seen better days. It was Tuesday morning, March 18th, 1986. Rick Patterson looked up from his desk and tried not to show disappointment. Tuesdays were slow. The farm economy was still recovering from the crisis of '83 through '85. Sales were terrible. Rick needed a big sale. This farmer in dirty clothes probably wanted a part for a 20-year-old tractor. The farmer walked to the counter. "I need to talk to someone about buying equipment." Rick stood. "I'm Rick Patterson. I own the dealership. What are you looking for?" The farmer was in his early 60s. Weathered face, calloused hands, spoke quietly. "I want 5 combines." Rick blinked. "5 combines?" "Yes, 5. Rick started to smile. This had to be a joke. "Sir, did you say 5 combines, as in 5 harvesting machines?" "That's right, 5 John Deere combines. What models do you have available?" Rick's smile grew. The farmer was serious, or crazy. "Sir, I'm not sure I understand. Are you looking for 5 combines for 5 different farmers, like a bulk order?" "No, 5 combines for me." "For you personally?" "Yes." Rick couldn't help it. He laughed, not mean-spirited, just genuine disbelief. "Sir, nobody buys 5 combines. Even large operations only need 1, maybe 2. What would you do with 5? The farmer's expression didn't change. "I'd use them for harvest. I farm 12,000 acres, need 5 combines to get it all cut in reasonable time." Rick's smile faded. 12,000 acres. That was massive, but this farmer looked like he farmed 200 acres at most. The dirty overalls, the worn boots, the old pickup visible through the window, a 1978 Ford with rust. "You farm 12,000 acres?" "Yes." "Where?" "Franklin and Cerro Gordo counties. 6,000 in Franklin, 6,000 in Cerro Gordo." Rick was skeptical. "That's a huge operation. Most farms around here are 400 to 800 acres. 12,000 that's serious farming." "I know how big it is. I farm it." "And you need 5 combines for that?" "During harvest, corn and beans both ready at same time. Got maybe 25 days of good weather to get it all cut." 5 combines working together can do 12,000 acres in 20 days. 1 combine would take 100 days. Can't risk that. Weather turns, crop sits in field losing value. Need 5. The logic was sound, but Rick still couldn't square it with the farmer's appearance. Guy looked broke, drove a rust bucket, wore clothes from a thrift store. "Okay, let's say you do farm 12,000 acres. That's a lot of equipment investment. 5 combines. You're looking at serious money. You planning to finance?" "No, cash." Rick laughed again. He couldn't help it. "Cash? Sir, 5 combines would run—" "Let me calculate." Rick pulled out his calculator. "Our 70-60 combines are $78,000 each. 5 of those is $390,000. You're telling me you want to pay $390,000 in cash?" "That's correct." "Sir, I don't mean to be rude, but do you actually have $390,000? The farmer reached into his overall pocket, pulled out a folded piece of paper, unfolded it, set it on the counter. It was a bank statement from First National Bank of Mason City. Account balance $2,347,000. Rick stared at the number, looked at the farmer, looked back at the statement. This is your account?" "Yes, that's my operating account. I keep enough there to cover annual expenses. The combines would come out of that." Rick felt his throat go dry. "Your operating account has $2.3 million? "Currently. Goes up and down through the year, depending on crop sales and expenses. But yes, around $2 million most of the time." "And you farm 12,000 acres?" "Yes." "How long have you been farming that much?" "Started with 800 acres in 1952. That was my dad's farm. I expanded slowly over 34 years. Bought land when it was cheap, paid cash, never borrowed. Now I own 12,000 acres free and clear. Rick's mind was racing. This farmer owned 12,000 acres outright, worth... Land was running about $1,200 per acre currently. 12,000 times 1,200 was $14.4 million in land value alone, plus this operating account with $2.3 million, plus whatever equipment he already owned. This farmer was worth probably $18 to $20 million. And Rick had laughed at him. "Sir, I apologize. I didn't realize... you don't look like..." The farmer smiled slightly. "Don't look like I have money? I know. People tell me that a lot. I don't care much about appearance. I care about function. These overalls work fine. This truck runs. Why would I spend money on new clothes or a new truck when the old ones do the job?" That's very practical. It's how I built this operation. Spent money on land and equipment, not on looking impressive. Result is, I own everything and have cash in the bank. Most farmers I know look successful but are buried in debt. I'd rather be successful than look successful. Rick was frantically recalculating everything. This was potentially a $390,000 sale. Cash. His commission on that would be $23,400, largest commission he'd make in years. "So you want 5 70/60 combines? Tell me about your other models. What else do you have?" Rick pulled out the catalogue, showed the farmer the 70/60, the 80/20, and the top model, the 90/50. The farmer studied the specs carefully. "The 90/50. How much?" $112,000 per unit. "What's the advantage over the 70/60? Rick explained the larger grain tank, more horsepower, better threshing capacity. The 90/50 could harvest faster and handle more acres per day. The farmer did mental math. So 5 90/50s could harvest my 12,000 acres in about 16 days instead of 20. Probably yes. What's 5 90/50s cost total? 5 times 112,000 is 560,000. The farmer thought for a moment. "I'll take 5 90/50s. Rick almost fell over. You'll take 5 at 560,000 total." "Yes. When can you have them ready?" "I'd need to order them from the factory, probably 8 to 10 weeks delivery." "That's fine. Harvest isn't until September. Long as I have them by late August, I'm good." "And you'll pay cash?" "I'll pay half now as deposit, half on delivery. That work?" "That works perfectly." The farmer pulled out a checkbook, not a business checkbook, personal checks with little farm scene printed on them. Wrote out a check for $280,000. Signed it. Handed it to Rick. "There's your deposit. Order the combines. Call me when they're ready." Rick took the check with shaking hands. $280,000, largest check he'd ever held. He looked at the name on the check, Walter Cunningham. "Mr. Cunningham, I need to ask, how did you build this? 12,000 acres owned free and clear, millions in the bank. You're obviously very successful. What's your secret?" Walter thought for a moment. "No secret, really. I started in '52 with 800 acres my dad left me. Land was cheap after the war, 200 per acre. I saved every penny, lived cheap, bought more land whenever I could pay cash, never borrowed a dime, just kept accumulating." "You've never borrowed? Not once in 34 years? Not once. Seen too many farmers lose everything to debt. I decided early on I'd only buy what I could pay for. Meant I grew slower than guys who leveraged. But I never worried about bank taking my land. In the '80s crisis, I watched neighbors go under. I didn't lose a single acre because I didn't owe anybody anything. But 12,000 acres, that's a lot of land to buy without credit. I bought it over 34 years, 852, another 457, 661. Kept adding pieces, usually buying from farmers who were retiring or couldn't make it. Paid cash every time. Sometimes got good deals because cash closes fast. By 1980, I had 8,000 acres. Last 4 years, I added another 4,000, buying from farmers who lost it in the crisis. You bought 4,000 acres during the crisis. Land was cheap, farmers were desperate, banks were dumping foreclosed properties. I paid cash, got good prices. Feel bad for the farmers who lost it. But the land needed an owner. I made sure it stayed productive. Rick was learning more about farming economics in 10 minutes than he'd learned in years of selling equipment. And the 5 combines, that's a huge equipment investment. It is, but necessary. I've been getting by with 3 combines. Takes too long. Weather risk is high. 5 combines reduces that risk significantly. I'll harvest faster, lose less crop to weather delays. The investment pays for itself in reduced risk. What else do you run for equipment? I've got 8 tractors, 4 big ones for field work, 2 medium for cultivation, 2 small for utility, got 3 grain carts, 2 semi-trucks for hauling, 4 grain bins holding 250,000 bushels total. It's a complete operation. And it's just you running it? Me plus 4 full-time employees and 6 seasonal workers during planting and harvest. I pay them well. Want good people who stay. High turnover costs money. Rick was amazed. Walter Cunningham ran what amounted to a major farming corporation, but he looked like a small farmer barely getting by. The disconnect was stunning. Mr. Cunningham, I have to say, I completely misjudged you when you walked in. I'm embarrassed about that. Walter smiled. Don't be. Happens all the time. I go to the bank looking like this. New tellers think I'm there to cash a small check. Then they look up my account and their eyes get big. I go to the feed mill. People assume I'm buying a few bags. Then I order 20 tons, and they're surprised. I'm used to it. Why not dress better? Drive a nicer truck? You can obviously afford it. Because it's a waste of money. These overalls cost $18 and last 5 years. Fancy clothes cost $200 and last 2 years. This truck cost me $3,000 in '78. Still runs perfect. New truck would cost $25,000 and wouldn't run any better. I'd rather put that money into land or equipment that makes me money instead of clothes and trucks that just look nice. But don't you want to enjoy your wealth? Take vacations? Buy nice things? I do enjoy it. I enjoy owning 12,000 acres. I enjoy watching crops grow. I enjoy harvest when 5 combines are running and everything's working smooth. That's better than any vacation. The nice thing I buy is more land and better equipment. That brings me joy. Rick was quiet for a moment, then said, Mr. Cunningham, you've taught me something important today. I judged you by appearance, assumed you couldn't afford much. I was completely wrong. That's a mistake I won't make again. Most people make that mistake. That's fine. I don't need people to know I'm wealthy. Actually prefer they don't. Keeps things simple. They completed the paperwork. Walter left. Rick stood there holding a check for $280,000, still slightly stunned. His sales manager came out of the office. Did that farmer buy something? He bought 5 90/50 combines. 5? That's impossible. He paid $280,000 as deposit, cash, balance on delivery. You're joking. I'm not. That farmer owns 12,000 acres free and clear, worth probably $18 million total. Walked in here looking like he couldn't afford a tractor tire. Turns out he's the wealthiest farmer in 3 counties. The sales manager looked out the window at Walter's old truck pulling away. That rust bucket? That rust bucket belongs to a man who has $2.3 million in his checking account. Unbelievable. I laughed at him when he said he wanted 5 combines. Thought he was crazy or joking. Turns out he was dead serious and had more money than I'll see in my lifetime. Over the next 8 weeks, Rick told the story to everyone who'd listen. Never judge a farmer by their truck or clothes. I learned that the hard way. The 5 90/50 combines arrived in late May. Walter came to take delivery, brought his farm manager and 3 of his employees. They inspected each combine carefully. Walter paid the balance, $280,000, with another check, took delivery, hauled all 5 combines back to his farm. Rick's total commission on the sale, $33,600, largest commission of his career. But more than the money, Rick learned a lesson he never forgot. Appearance means nothing. The wealthiest people often look the poorest. The farmer in dirty overalls might be worth $20 million. The guy in the suit might be broke. That September, Rick drove past Walter's farm during harvest, saw all 5 combines running in perfect coordination across a massive cornfield, like watching a symphony. The sight was beautiful. Rick pulled over, watched for 10 minutes. Walter was operating one of the combines, saw Rick's car, waved. Rick waved back, felt privileged to have met Walter Cunningham. The farmer who walked into his dealership looking like he couldn't afford lunch, but bought 5 combines for $560,000 cash. The farmer who taught Rick Patterson never to judge anyone by appearance ever again. The dealer laughed when the farmer said he wanted 5 combines, then got shocked when the farmer paid cash, then got educated about what real wealth looks like. Sometimes it looks like dirty overalls and a rusty truck. Sometimes it owns 12,000 acres and has millions in the bank. Sometimes it buys 5 combines without blinking. That's Walter Cunningham. That's the story. That's what happened when appearance met reality at Patterson John Deere in March 1986. The dealer learned. The farmer taught. The lesson lives forever. Never judge a farmer by their truck. Walter's journey. How he built an empire. To understand how Walter Cunningham accumulated 12,000 acres and millions in the bank, you need to know his full story. It started in 1952 when his father died of a heart attack at age 53. Walter was 24, just back from Korea. His father left him 800 acres outside Mason City. Good land, paid for. But nothing else. No equipment, no cash, just land. Most young farmers would have mortgaged the land to buy equipment. Walter didn't. He rented out 700 acres to neighbors for cash rent, farmed 100 acres himself using borrowed equipment, made $1,200 that first year, saved every penny. In '53, he bought a used Farmall H tractor for $800 cash, farmed 200 acres himself, rented 600, made $2,800, saved it all. In '54, he farmed 400 acres, rented 400, made $5,200, saved $4,800 after minimal living expenses. In '55, he farmed all 800 himself, bought another tractor and a combine, all used, all cash, made $8,400, saved $7,200. By 1957, Walter had saved $18,200. Land prices were still low. Post-war boom hadn't hit rural Iowa yet. Land was $250 per acre. Walter bought 400 acres adjoining his original 800, paid cash, $100,000 total, used his savings plus small amount borrowed from the seller, paid seller back in 2 years. Now he had 1,200 acres, farmed it all himself with hired help at peak times, made good money, saved aggressively, lived in the same farmhouse his father built in 1932, didn't update it, didn't need to, roof didn't leak, heat worked. Why spend money on cosmetics? Drove a 1949 Chevy truck until 1963, 14 years, only replaced it when the engine finally died beyond repair. Bought a used 1958 Ford for $1,200. Drove that until 78, 20 years. Wore the same style clothes his whole life. Work overalls. Cost $18 to $22. Lasted 5 years with care. Bought 3 pairs. Rotated them. When one wore out, bought another. Simple. Efficient. Cheap. Walter's living expenses averaged $70 per month in the 50s, $8,400 annually. He was farming 1,200 acres, grossing $60,000 to $80,000 depending on prices. Netted $30,000 to $40,000, spent $8,400, saved $22,000 to $32,000 annually. By 1961, Walter had saved $104,000. Plus, he owned 1,200 acres worth $300,000. Total net worth, 404,000 at age 33. Land came up for auction, 600 acres, estate sale. Farmer died with no heirs. Bank wanted it sold fast. Walter paid cash, 144,000. Got it below market because cash offer closed immediately. Now farming 1,800 acres. Hired 2 full-time employees. Bought bigger equipment. Still used. Still cash. Profit increased, grossing 120,000 annually by mid-60s. Netting 50 to 60,000, living on 12,000, saving 40 to 48,000 per year. The pattern continued for 34 years. Buy land when available, pay cash, expand slowly, live cheap, save aggressively, never borrow. By 1970, Walter owned 3,200 acres worth 600,000. Had 200,000 cash, net worth 800,000. By 1975, 4,800 acres, worth over $1 million. Cash, 400,000. Net worth, 1.4 million. By 1980, 8,000 acres, worth 10 million at peak prices. Cash, 600,000. Net worth, 10.6 million. Then the farm crisis hit. 83 through 85. Land values crashed, foreclosures everywhere. Walter watched neighbors lose everything, but Walter had zero debt. The crisis didn't hurt him, actually helped him. Foreclosed farms went to auction. Banks were desperate to sell. Walter had cash, bought 4 farms totaling 4,000 acres between 83 and 85, paid average 800 per acre. 4,000 acres times 800 equals 3.2 million. Walter paid it all cash from his operating account that he'd built up through the 70s. By March 1986, when he walked into Patterson John Deere, Walter owned 12,000 acres worth 14.4 million at current 1,200 per acre prices. Had 2.3 million in operating account. Had equipment worth roughly 800,000. Total net worth 17.5 million. Age 58. 34 years of farming, never borrowed a penny, built an empire through patience, discipline, and refusing to care what anyone thought about his appearance. The operation. How Walter farmed 12,000 acres. Running 12,000 acres isn't simple. Walter had built a sophisticated operation over decades. Equipment inventory as of 1986. 8 tractors, 4 John Deere 4040s for primary field work, 2 3020s for cultivation and lighter work, 2 4010s for utility and hauling, 3 combines, about to be replaced with 5 9050s, 4 planters, 2 30-row, 2 24-row, 6 grain carts for moving grain from combines to trucks during harvest, 2 semi-trucks for hauling grain to elevators, 12 grain wagons for storage overflow, 4 grain bins, total capacity 250,000 bushels, complete maintenance shop, welders, tools, parts inventory. Walter did most repairs himself. Employees. Farm manager, oversaw daily operations, paid 48,000 annually. 3 full-time equipment operators ran tractors and combines, paid 32,000 each. Part-time mechanic, helped with maintenance 20 hours weekly, paid 16 per hour. 6 seasonal workers, hired for planting and harvest, paid 12 per hour. Walter's total annual payroll, approximately 230,000. Crop rotation, 6,000 acres corn, 6,000 acres soybeans, rotated annually. Average yields, corn 160 bushels per acre, soybeans 52 bushels per acre. Gross income in typical year, mid-80s prices. Corn, 6,000 acres times 160 bushels times $2.50 equals 2,400,000. Soybeans, 6,000 acres times 52 bushels times $6 equals 1,872,000. Total gross. 4,272,000 operating costs, seed 180,000, fertilizer 340,000, chemicals 220,000, fuel 190,000, maintenance 140,000, labor 230,000, property taxes 170,000, insurance 80,000, miscellaneous 150,000, total costs 1,700,000, net income approximately 2.5 million annually. Walter's personal living expenses 18,000 annually, amount saved annually 2.48 million. That's how Walter accumulated millions. Earned 2.5 million, spent 18,000, saved 2.48 million every single year. Most farmers earning that kind of gross would spend 300 to 500,000 on lifestyle, new trucks, big house, vacations, toys. Walter spent 18,000, same as someone making 40,000 per year. The difference, 2.46 million annually, went straight to savings and land purchases. That discipline over 34 years built 17.5 million net worth. The five combines in action, September 1986. Harvest time. Walter's 5 new 9050 combines were about to prove their worth. Weather forecast showed a good harvest window, 20 days of dry weather. Perfect for getting 12,000 acres cut. Walter organized his crew, 5 combine operators working 12-hour shifts, grain carts running constantly to keep combines moving, semi-trucks hauling to elevator non-stop. Day 1 of harvest, all 5 combines running in Walter's largest field, 800 acres of corn. Watching them work together was magnificent. They'd start at one end in formation, work across the field in parallel lines. Each combine cutting 40 rows, spacing perfect, no gaps, no overlap, pure efficiency. Rick Patterson drove out to watch on day 3, stood at field edge as the combines came toward him. The sound was incredible. 5 engines, 5 headers cutting corn, 5 grain tanks filling. When the combines reached the end and turned, Rick walked over to Walter's machine. Walter stopped, climbed down. "Impressive operation," Rick said. Walter smiled. "This is why I needed 5. Look at that." He pointed to the field behind them. 600 acres already harvested in 3 days. With 3 combines that would have taken 5 days. With 1 combine, 15 days. We'll finish this field tomorrow, move to the next field. At this rate, we'll have all 12,000 acres cut in 17 days. Leaves margin for weather delays. And if weather holds. If weather stays good all 20 days, we'll harvest neighboring farms too. I contract harvest for 3 smaller farmers, charge them per acre, makes another 100,000 during harvest season. Rick was impressed. "So the 5 combines aren't just for your operation, mostly mine, but I keep them busy every day of harvest. When we finish our 12,000, we do another 2,400 for neighbors. The combines pay for themselves in 3 years just from my acres. The contract work is pure profit after that. Smart business. Equipment should work, not sit idle. 5 combines sitting idle 10 months a year is wasteful. I make sure they're productive whenever possible. The harvest that year went perfectly. 17 days to cut Walter's 12,000 acres, 3 days to harvest neighbors' 2,400. Total harvest time, 20 days. Exactly as planned. Total harvest, 960,000 bushels corn, 312,000 bushels soybeans. Biggest harvest of Walter's career. Income from that harvest, $4.6 million. The 5 combines had proved their value. Reduced weather risk, increased efficiency, enabled contract work, best equipment investment Walter ever made. And it started with Rick Patterson laughing when Walter said he wanted 5 combines, then getting shocked when Walter paid cash, then watching those 5 machines work in perfect harmony across 12,000 acres. Sometimes the best investments look crazy until you understand the reasoning behind them. Walter understood. Rick learned. The combines proved it. Community reactions. Word spread fast in farming communities. By April, everyone in Franklin and Cerro Gordo counties knew Walter Cunningham bought 5 combines, paid cash, over $500,000. Reactions varied. Some farmers were impressed. Walter's built something incredible, 12,000 acres, 5 new combines, all paid for. That's the dream. Others were jealous. Must be nice to have that kind of money. Some people get all the luck. Walter's response to the jealous ones. Luck? I started with 800 acres in '52, built to 12,000 over 34 years, worked 80-hour weeks, lived in a house without air conditioning until '83, drove trucks until they literally died, wore the same overalls for 5 years at a time. That's not luck, that's sacrifice. The equipment dealer in Hampton heard the story, called Rick Patterson. Did Walter really buy 5 combines cash? He did. Saw the bank statement. Over $2 million in his checking account. Unbelievable. Guy dresses like he's on welfare and he's a multi-millionaire. That's exactly why he's a multi-millionaire. He doesn't waste money on appearance. Local banker told colleagues, Walter Cunningham is our largest depositor. Keeps between 2 and 3 million in checking. Never borrows. Just deposits crop money and pays expenses. Been doing it for decades. Wish we had more customers like him. But what really amazed people was how Walter lived despite his wealth. Still lived in the same farmhouse, still drove the same old truck, still wore the same clothes. Walter's explanation when asked, "Why would I change? The house is comfortable, the truck runs, the clothes work. Spending money on upgrades wouldn't make me happier, it'd just make me poorer." Young farmers started seeking Walter's advice. How do you build what you built? Walter's answer was always the same. Start small, save aggressively, buy only what you can pay cash for, expand slowly. Live way below your means, be patient. It takes decades, not years. Most people aren't willing to wait that long or sacrifice that much. I was. That's the difference. Walter's philosophy on wealth. In 1990, a reporter from Farm Journal magazine interviewed Walter for an article on successful farming operations. The reporter asked, "You're worth an estimated $20 million. You farm 12,000 acres. You run a major operation. Yet you live like someone making $30,000 a year. Why?" Walter thought carefully before answering. "Because money is a tool, not a goal. I don't farm to be rich. I farm because I love it. The money is a byproduct of doing it well. What would I do with a big house? Spend more time cleaning it. What would I do with a fancy truck? Drive the same roads I drive now. What would I do with expensive clothes? Still get them dirty farming. But don't you want to enjoy your wealth? I do enjoy it. I enjoy knowing my land is paid for. I enjoy never worrying about making payments. I enjoy being able to buy 5 combines when I need them without asking a bank. I enjoy helping young farmers get started by renting them land at fair prices. That's enjoying wealth, the real kind, not the show-off kind." What advice would you give young farmers starting out? Don't try to look successful. Be successful. There's a difference. Looking successful means new truck, new equipment, big house. Being successful means owning everything, having cash in the bank, sleeping well at night. Most farmers I know look successful, but are drowning in debt. I'd rather be successful than look it. What's your biggest fear? Losing discipline, getting lazy, starting to spend like I have unlimited money. I've seen wealthy farmers go broke because they started living like they were richer than they were. Bought toys, took expensive vacations, built mansions. Then a bad crop year or two hit and they couldn't cover expenses. Lost everything. I never want to be that guy. What's your proudest achievement? Walter smiled. 38 years of farming, and I've never missed a single payment on anything, never been late on property taxes, never bounced a check, never had a loan denied because I've never applied for one. My word is gold because I pay cash and honor my commitments. That reputation is worth more than any amount of money. The article ran in Farm Journal November 1990, title, "The Millionaire in Overalls, How Walter Cunningham Built an Empire Through Discipline." It got over 40,000 responses. Farmers writing to say Walter inspired them. Financial advisors saying Walter's approach should be taught in schools. Young farmers asking for mentorship. Walter answered every letter, gave advice freely, helped several young farmers get started by renting them land with option to buy. The impact of that article lasted decades. Walter became a quiet legend in farming circles. The man who proved you could build massive wealth through patience and discipline without ever borrowing a penny. Legacy, what Walter taught. Walter Cunningham farmed until 2008, age 80, 56 years of farming. He sold the operation to a young farmer for $18 million. The buyer paid cash. Saved for 12 years to buy Walter's farm. Inspired by Walter's example, Walter retired with approximately $26 million net worth, lived until 2016, died peacefully at 88. His funeral was packed, over 800 people, farmers, dealers, bankers, young farmers he'd helped, people whose lives he'd touched. Rick Patterson gave a eulogy. I met Walter 30 years ago when he walked into my dealership looking like he couldn't afford a tractor tire. He bought 5 combines for $560,000 cash. I laughed at him, then got shocked, then got educated. Walter taught me never to judge anyone by appearance, taught me that real wealth is quiet, taught me that discipline beats flash every time. I'm a better person for knowing him. The young farmer who bought Walter's operation spoke too. Walter sold me his farm for $18 million. I paid cash, took 12 years to save it. Walter inspired me to do it debt-free. He showed it was possible. When I gave him the check, he cried, said he was proud someone was continuing his philosophy. I farm that land debt-free today because Walter showed me the way. Walter's estate went to agricultural scholarships and programs, teaching financial literacy to young farmers. Over 300 farmers have received help from Walter's Foundation since 2016. The lessons Walter taught live on. Appearance means nothing. Substance means everything. Live below your means, no matter how much you earn. Buy only what you can pay cash for. Be patient. Building wealth takes decades. Don't care what others think about your truck or clothes. Real wealth is freedom from debt, not display of possessions. Help others once you've succeeded. These lessons are taught at Iowa State University Agricultural Program. Students learn about Walter Cunningham, the farmer who walked into a dealership looking broke and bought 5 combines cash, the millionaire in overalls, the man who proved that discipline and patience build empires. Rick Patterson told the story until he died in 2018. Never judge a farmer by their truck. I learned that from Walter Cunningham. Best lesson of my life. The farmer walked into the dealership. I want 5 combines. The dealer laughed, then got shocked, then got educated, then told the story for 32 years. That's Walter Cunningham's legacy, not the money, the lesson. The proof that you can build massive wealth without looking wealthy, without borrowing, without flash, just patience, discipline, hard work, and not caring what anyone thinks about your rusty truck or dirty overalls. The dealer laughed. The farmer paid cash. The lesson lives forever. Never judge a farmer by their truck. Walter Cunningham proved it. May we all learn it.